refer to it all collectively as XR. And I was like, oh, really? So we will try to do that in this conversation to make it really easy. Can all of you kind of go down the line, and we'll start with you, Dr. Butera, if you could please talk to us about how you approach creating immersive audio experiences in XR.
Well, I actually like your visualization angle to this, because the way that we think about it is music is always multisensory, whether we think about it that way or not. We usually think about the audio, but music in some sort of spatial or often visual context, and music is also embodied, like you're talking about, where are you in relation to the music, and I argue it's also social. There's always a social component to this stuff. So when we design these experiences, whether it's a hardware controller that you can hold, or if it's a virtual version of that you can hold virtually in your hand, or if it's just the world around you, we think about the visual really as much as the auditory, because if you can fuse those together and synchronize them as the same moment, your brain stacks it all up and says this is real. And so we're really moving toward this more immersive space, even if it's just through your phone, but you believe it when you actually stack up the senses. So I think that's super important.
You want to follow up anything on that one, Brett? You have to add anything?
Well, what can I add to that? Yeah, I'll just really quickly say, I think the terms VR, AR, MR, and XR, it's such a nascent technology still at this point that even amongst the companies who are building it, there's confusion around the terms. So it's very difficult sometimes to talk about it even within the same company, let alone to an audience, and make sure that everyone's on the same page. The way that we kind of refer to it at Meta, VR, virtual reality, typically means you have a headset on. It blocks out your entire view of the real world, and everything you see is a sort of virtual, digital, 3D recreation of the world, right? And it's different from the actual environment you're in. MR is kind of a step between VR and AR. MR stands for mixed reality, and you're still wearing like a virtual reality headset, but it uses cameras to project the real world that you can't see with your own eyes into the displays, which you can see. So you're getting basically a digital representation of the actual real world around you, and then you can start to overlay virtual elements on top of that. So that's what we refer to as mixed reality. Augmented reality is glasses. Magic Leap has a wonderful pair of AR glasses. This is where you can actually see right through the lens. You can see the real world with your real eyes, but the displays can actually put virtual elements on top of it. And then collectively, we refer to all of these things together as XR. So, for example, my team XR Audio, we're building spatial audio solutions that apply to VR, AR, and MR. So we're the XR Audio team, if that makes sense.
So adaptive transparency on AirPods Pro would be mixed reality.
Yeah, that's a great example of MR in a purely kind of a sonic product.
Yeah. I think actually sound has been in AR, VR, everything like much longer than visualizations. Like, we've always been in sort of AR for sound. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we're catching up on the visual, actually.
Yeah, and everyone always thinks about the visuals first. And, audio is like an afterthought. So
ocular centrism.
Nobody misses it and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Side eye. As a visual girl, her side eye. Hardware. Dr. Butera, you held up a little piece of something that people probably didn't get a chance to see. Would love to talk about hardware advancements in this space. Can you please tell us about the Orba 2? Can you hold it up a little bit longer so people can see it?
Sure.
And talk about its unique app accompaniment that is launching very soon.
Yeah, so just briefly, we're thinking a lot about user interface design for adaptive content. And some of that's the input. So when you stereo. So when you can touch something and you immediately get sound, and actually this has haptics in it as well, and you can build up loops, or in this case stems. This is a Kimber song. then you have this immediate experience in front of you that acoustically and sonically is this kind of adaptive we call it augmented creativity. What we have been focused on now for a couple years is taking not only these gestural controls, it's very much like a gaming controller. It has pretty much all the same guts in it as a normal gaming controller.
It's way cooler than a game controller.
It's a fun game. So you can get lost in this with no screen, which is wonderful. But then, what about when you want to share a moment of your day? And what if you're thinking about video? You're thinking about social media. We made an app called OrbitCam that has a MIDI and audio engine in it, and you can play it on screen, or you can hook up an Orba to it and create these augmented videos with instant sound tracking in them. You don't have to do any post-production, it just works. So we launched that, and this is kind of building out, how do you want to access the same experience? Now what we're getting into is more augmented reality through the camera. So we think of it as a musical camera app, and that's where Mini Beats comes in. And so soon we will be launching this app where you can really make music, whether it's through hardware, on screen, or with gestures, or even with pointing your camera out in the world, and it kind of comes to life, like a Fantasia experience. And so for us, it's all the same principles. It's all the same design principles from a user experience level. It's just how do you want to access it? If you're playing Fortnite, you might play it on your phone, you might play it on your Switch, you might play it on your computer, like whatever's convenient. We feel like music should be the same thing. So yeah, we're having a great time with it, but it's very much, again, that multi-sensory creativity.